Welcome to the Cyber Sensei Supplemental Series. This tutorial demonstrates the various ways to sheath a Japanese sword. I will execute the same hidari kesegiri, left downward diagonal cut, but then follow up with several interesting, fun, and challenging sheathing patterns. Practice these patterns until you are proficient and you can smoothly shield a sword in any direction. If you want to view the complete tutorial, join us at learnthesword.com. Yeah. If you want to view the complete tutorial, join us at learnthesword.com. In this supplemental tutorial, it is best to use your guideline. My guideline is a hidari kesegiri, but if you choose to create or execute any other cuts, please be my guest, because this is the fun and interesting aspect of drawing and sheathing a sword. You lift the sword up, you execute the cut. My first sheath will be this one where I lift my elbow up and bring the sword down. All I'm doing is, if you see me at a side of a center stance here, I'm in a center stance, and all I'm doing is I'm dropping the sword down and bringing my left elbow and forearm up. Not too high up here, not too low, but enough where I can transition my hand to a reverse grip, bring it back around to go into the sheath or lay on top of my left hip. Here is another interesting sheath I'd like you to duplicate. Of course, lift the sword up, execute your cut. After you've completed the cut, I want you to let go of the left hand and take your right hand and turn it counterclockwise about 135 to 180 degrees, where now your hand can easily grab on to the back of the sword. As your right hand now lets go, comes underneath the handle and re-grips. After your right hand re-grips, you can let go with your left hand and bring it over to the sheath to hold it, or just hold the sword again and bring it down to your side. Since that is a little difficult to see, I will make another demonstration. You make the cut, you let go of the left arm, you keep your hand where it is, you turn the sword almost 180 degrees where your hand can re-grip the back of the handle in a reverse grip. Then release with the right hand, turn it with palms up, bring it in underneath to support it. After it's supported, you let go with your left hand and either grab the sheath or re-grip the sword and bring it down to your side like this. Another fascinating sheathing pattern everyone really likes is the reversed hand, where I come up, I execute my cut. Upon completion of the cut, I take my right hand and I reverse the grip, let go with my left hand, flip it upwards until the palm of my hand is upwards, and then re-grip or grab the sheath and put the sword away. Many students ask why I use wood or a book toe when I practice teaching. Basically, if you use wood, you can teach the basic footprint very, very easily. The minute I start using metal, there's so many subtleties and there's so much ritual and movement that it becomes very, very difficult. With that said, let's go on to the next sheathing pattern. This is a downward cut followed by an upward Joho-giri cut and bringing it down to sheath. Very simple, but very cool looking. Sword, cut, reverse, cut up, bring the sword back down to the top of your sheath or to the hip, take, reverse your hand, and drop it down. Watch it again. I come down, I make a cut, I reverse, I cut up, I drop my hand down to the sheath or to my hip, and I grab it, and then I bring it, my hands down to my side. Some sheathing techniques appear very difficult. A lot of them look pretty easy. After your muscle memory is set in, you will easily be able to duplicate these sheaths because they're not that difficult. Just with a little time and practice, you also will be proficient. Here is one that looks difficult, but really isn't. I execute Hidari Kesegiri. I go back into a Chura no Kamae or center stance. I bring my hand down and I roll the sword 360 degrees. Like that. Watch it again. Watch it again. You notice when I take the sword, I almost take the bottom of my hand like this, and I flip the sword like that, so I can hit it with a palm or my fist. I want you to look at it a little bit closer. And using a wooden bokuto or boken, the handle is a little bit more exaggerated, so it is harder to roll this sword compared to a steel one, where the handles are a little bit more concise and consistent and fit better with your hands. After you've spent time practicing with a wooden bokuto, now it's time to go back into metal and steel, where we can learn more of the subtleties. Of course, we're going to execute the same cuts and the sheaths, but this time I want to talk about it in a little bit more detail. When you take the sword, you draw the sword, you lift the sword up, I'm going to execute the cut. After I execute the cut, I'm going to lift my elbow up, I'm going to re-grip the sword, bring the sword to the habaki to the koiguchi. Then from there I'm going to pull out, turn my hand in, and sheathe the sword a little easier this way, and then just pull it in. Watch it again. I make the cut. I lift up my elbow, drop the sword, re-grip the sword, and just let it fall back into place on top of the koiguchi. And sheath the sword completely. The second sheath, I execute a cut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse my hand over, turn it about 180 degrees, re-grip the handle with my left hand, loosening the grip on my right, bringing my palm up and grabbing, loosening up with my left hand, bringing it over to my sheath, and then putting it away. Watch it again. Up, execute the cut, turn counterclockwise, grip the handle, reverse hand, palm up, re-grip, drop the sword right onto the sheath, and put the sword away. The next sheath, in a little bit more detail, is the reverse hand. This is easy to do, fun, and you can establish this sheath from most any angle in your body. Reverse my right hand, turning the sheath upward, this way. And it's not a sheath, it's a sword. But even teachers make mistakes. Watch it again. up, cut, reverse grip, flip the sword up about 130 degrees, and sheathe the sword, finishing off that. Hands down to your side. The next sheath is, I lift up the sword, I execute a cut downward, reversing it, cutting upward, and then pulling the sword back down to my sheath and dropping it right on and sheathing it in very, very easily this way. So now, when you sheath a sword and your sword is an upward angle, you can easily bring it down to your body and put it away. One of the more difficult sheaths, actually it isn't difficult because it's easy to do after your muscle memory is set in, is this one where you create a full swing, you make a cut into a hidari kesugiri, you stand into it into a center stance, and now you flip the sword. Watch it again. Pull the sword out, make the cut, bring my hand in underneath, and pull the sword so it rotates on my hand here like this. One full revolution, 360 degrees, and then on top, hitting it with a fist or the palm of your hand. After you've struck it with your fist or the palm of your hand, open up your hand to a reverse, grab it, rotate the sword upward, the blade going upward, and sheath it this way. If you have any questions about this tutorial or any of the other ones, don't hesitate to contact us.